Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
I decided to pick the second Doctor.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
My favorite Doctor. I also wanted to pick a title or titles from a range that we haven't read before on the podcast.
Ooh.
So we're breaking new ground here in a couple of different ways.
Okay.
So there are 2 Second Doctor books in the Telos novella range.
Oh.
And we're going to be reading both of them for October.
Interesting.
The first is called Foreign Devils by Andrew Cartmel.
Okay.
And the second is called Wonderland by Mark Chadbourne.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How are you doing?
I'm getting over a cold. Chris, how are things going with you?
Well, I'm recovering from an eye infection, so it's been great. So you're listening to 2 people slightly crocked. We probably shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. So, Chris, how's life in the UK right now? Similar to how things are going in the United States, I'd suspect.
Well, at least you know in a month or so's time what international bodies you're going to be a member of and where your food's going to be coming from and your medicine.
It's just the basic necessities, right?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the rabbit's fine because all of her hay comes from Devon, so it's just us humans. It might be a little bit stuffed, but anyways, oh well.
This is our first recording since Terrence Dix had passed away on a kind of a sadder note, but we should note that Jonathan Dix, who I think is Terrence's son, has set up a Just Giving page in memory of his father, a fundraiser for Save the Children charity, which was Terrence's preferred charity. And so far it's raised nearly £3,000
Cool.
from over 130 donations at the time of recording. So
That's brilliant. I hadn't heard about that. That's not so. That does need further publicity and further sharing. So
Paul Cornell tweeted
yeah.
it a while ago, which is where I had heard of it, and I think we may have retweeted it as well.
Sure.
But yeah, there were a lot of tributes at the time, and
Oh,
so
yes.
it's worth
Yes.
highlighting because it's still open for donations. So
yeah, cool. Right. Unless we have book news we wish to speak about, I think we're entering the bit where we do show and tell.
I think so. Chris, what do you have for show and tell this month?
Right. Well, I was going to talk about Christopher Eccleston and his blossoming into kind of like fandom and everything. But then, actually, I have ended up being, what's the word I'm looking for, enrolled into something rather interesting. So, there's a body called Radar in the UK, which assesses radio audience figures. And last week, I was invited to listen on behalf of Radar for this week. So I have to record every time I listen to the radio, including on apps, but podcasts don't count. And I'm having to do it for a week.
Huh.
And so, yes, I listened to Doctor Who on Radio 4 Extra last night. just to help with radar figures, because I kind of figured they probably don't have that many takers. Yes, I thought, yeah, I'll help them, because like the polling industry as a whole in the UK, and I suspect it's probably the same case in America, finds it really hard to reach out to people, because like in days of old they'd have rung up on your house line, on your home phone number, and we don't have one. Most houses in the UK don't have one.
Yeah, same. We don't have one either.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like, how do you reach out to people? So this person knocks on my door, and I was expecting a delivery. And so I went out and like, oh, you're not Amazon. Hello. And I was about to say no, and I was like, okay, yeah. So I've actually been listening to a bit more regular radio this week anyways, because the Rugby World Cup is on in Japan, so that's been happening whilst I've been driving into work, and this is the week that the Supreme Court gave its ruling in the UK. I'm not going to go too far into UK politics more than we have already. However, it did mean that I was driving home, I was listening to the news channels, just trying to figure out what on earth is going on. So, yeah.
Good to stay informed.
Well, indeed. I was having to record it in 15-minute chunks as to what I'm listening to. So, yeah. So, slightly Doctor Who related. But, yeah, as I say, with waiting, maybe they might suddenly have this big old spike. I was like, wow, lots of people are listening to Doctor Who on Radio 4 Extra. So, it was one of the Colin Baker Lost stories.
Oh.
I think it was done for the Trial of Time Lord season, possibly.
Huh.
But, yeah, the BBC have been airing those on Saturday evenings, 6 o'clock. Which is a slot that Doctor Who is sometimes occupied on TV.
And people say we're not getting Doctor Who this year.
Yes. So, so that's my slightly tenuous Doctor Who show and tell. So,
you made it work, yeah.
Yeah, I made it work. And also, I did warn you, it was slightly geeky and nerdy, but it's good. So, I must confess, there were one or two things that I might listen to a podcast of, and I kind of listened to it live just to sort of say, I am helping with the audience figures.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how about you, Matt?
So this month I'm going to highlight a pair of Doctor Who books that I've only become recently aware of in the last few months. The first was published by Target in May of 1987, and the second by Marvel Comics in 1988. And they're called The Doctor Who Fun Book and Doctor Who It's Bigger on the Inside by Tim Quinn and Dickie Howitt.
Yes!
I had no idea they existed.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. No, I've not read the Doctor Who Fun Book, but Bigger on the Inside, I adored. I got that when that was first published. I think.
Well, they were regular contributors to the 3-panel strip in DWM called Doctor Who ? Both of them were combined and republished along with additional material by Wick Publishing in 2017. In It's Even Bigger on the Inside.
Ooh.
So the same publisher who published Andrew Cartmell's Script Doctor book and I think the Jim Mortimer Behind the Scenes book and some others. So I just ordered a copy earlier this morning because I really like the illustration style. It reminds me of a lot of kind of similar works from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Oh, I think I might well go and order that myself.
It's on sale too.
Oh, excellent.
Cool.
The Doctor Who ? Stuff was always very entertaining. I don't think there was a lot of stuff that was recycled from DWM in Bigger on the Inside.
Oh, okay.
So, I haven't read the Fun Book, so I can't speak for that. But there were some brilliant gags. So, it'll be good fun.
Cool. So this month we're venturing into kind of a new area for the book club, the Telos novella range. So do we maybe want to talk a few minutes about what Telos was and how these books came to exist, maybe?
One of the home planets of the Cybermen?
It is. It's also David J. Howe's publishing company. So he, of course, was responsible for some of the Doctor Who handbooks for Virgin, as well as the television companion for BBC books, and then wrote Time Frame, which was a collection of all the Target covers. And then the Transcendental Toy Box, which was a exhaustive at the time, like almost Overstreet-style price guide to Doctor Who merchandise.
Yeah, which at the time kind of felt, well, this is like you're going to be at the end of all the merchandise.
It did. It was kind of right at the...
It's no longer the case.
It is kind of a good delineation point between classic series and new series and wilderness series.
Yeah, indeed.
And then so Telos got the license to publish hardcover short form fiction, and they published a total of 15 books over a span of about 2.5 years from November 2001 through February 2004. And I think at the time they were sold or marketed as, hey, we're getting in a bunch of authors who may not have written for the show and who might not have time to do a full book. Although there's some familiar names too.
Yeah, they were going for like a prestige angle. So, I mean, I think last month we spoke about Kim Newman's book. I mean, that had a bit of fanfare at the time, from what I recall.
Each novella, speak about like the prestige format.
Yeah.
Each novella was published in 2 formats. So you had a standard hardcover and then a deluxe hardcover. And the deluxe editions had like ribbon bookmarks, an illustrated frontispiece, and were often autographed by the author or the actors from the TV show. So, for example, the deluxe edition of Night Dreamers was signed by the author, the illustrator, as well as Katie Manning, who wrote the foreword, as that's a Joe Grant book.
Cool.
And some of the Telos novellas had audiobooks released where Terry Malloy did the readings, which I wasn't aware of.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
I think 1 or 2 of the novellas even featured an unnamed doctor, like in The Dalek Factor. And kind of retroactively, a lot of people are like, this could work as a War Doctor novella. It kind of fits if you kind of squint a little bit.
Interesting. It wasn't Peter Anglidi's ginger-haired doctor.
No, it was a different one. Although they're kind of the same length as a Target novelization, I don't think they really took that approach. Although listeners, let us know if any of the Telos novellas are done more in that Target style format, kind of similar to what the quick reads did. But certainly the 2 we read for this month did not take that format.
No. I think it's also probably fair to say that if you're one of our younger listeners, we enter there's some interesting topics and language that get touched upon.
Yeah. And so we're going to, I think, review them in publication order. So first up is Foreign Devils by Andrew Cartmel. And so this was the 5th of 15 novels published. And let's maybe talk about Andrew Cartmel a little bit.
Yeah.
He was the script editor that succeeded Eric Sayward, who had left the show.
He's secretly Canadian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we wouldn't necessarily say secretly, but I mean, he certainly has spent... Yeah, he is more Canadian than you would expect from speaking to him. He's lived in Canada, and I think that was before he worked on the show. He also worked in IT for a while, which is why, one of the reasons I suspect that he went into kind of like cyberpunk with his new adventures. He was script editor of the show for 3 years, and certainly showed a direction that the new adventures could go into and sustain a range of novels for 7 years, and as well. Certainly with season 26, gave a bit of a blueprint for Rose and RTD's first season.
Yeah.
And also spoke to RTD, because like the long game, that was originally a pitch for a Sylvester McCoy story. So he did try his best. I mean, I know he has said in writing that he felt quite sad about, after the show, the fact that he felt because he didn't go on and do a lot more script editing or kind of show running elsewhere, that he couldn't take this crew of writers that he'd created, and so like couldn't help sort of like shepherd their career. Particularly, he felt particularly gutted that he wasn't able to help Ben Aronovich reach the kind of like the fame and that he felt that Ben had deserved. Fortunately, Ben, I think, is on the way there now with Rivers of London. Yeah, I think a good egg all around. And also as well, he has said one of the things that he wanted to do with his time on Doctor Who was bring down the government. which is just great.
He, I feel like he certainly brought in some new writers on the show, like Ben Aronovich and maybe a few others that wouldn't necessarily have gotten that leg up or had that opportunity without his help. He kind of inherited most of season 24 in various states of work, but I feel like season 25 and 26 especially has his stamp on it, and he was working towards building that often mentioned Cartmel master plan when the show was canceled after Survival.
Yeah.
I've gone swimming with him. He's one of the early morning swimmers in Gallifrey 1 in Los Angeles. So, and he of course wrote Script Doctor, which outlines his time on the show, and then you mentioned his Warhead, Warlock, and Warchild trilogy, The New Adventures. And then he also wrote Atom Bomb Blues, which was the final Past Doctor adventure, closing out that range. And he's written a few stories for Big Finish. He wrote an early one with the Fifth Doctor and Nyssa, and then much of the season 27 Lost stories that Big Finish did in 2011, where they did the missing season 27 set with Thin Ice, Crime of the Century, Animal, and Earth Aid. So still definitely contributing to Doctor Who in one form or another.
Didn't he also write Seventh Doctor comics for Titan?
Oh, more recently, yeah.
Yeah. He also wrote some comics for DWM as well in the early 90s. So not many, but I mean, he certainly wrote. I can't remember the name of the storyline, but anyway, he's very much kept his oar in with the show over the years. So
Foreign Devils was one of 2 novellas that were also released later on in paperback. The other being Ghost Ship by Keith Topping. So this might be slightly more available than some of the other ones. I thought it was kind of funny how the book opens with a quote from George Mann reviewing and praising the book. I don't think he had written for Doctor Who yet.
no, he wouldn't have. Yeah,
He, of course, wrote Engines of War, which is our very first episode. And then this book contains a foreword by Mike Ashley from July 2002. And the frontispiece was painted by Mike Collins, which is a dragon imagery. And the book contains a prologue from the point of view of Roderick Upcott. And then there's 12 chapters. And then in the hardcover version, they included a bonus story featuring Karnaki the Ghost Hunter. Story number 3, The Whistling Room, who's a character that we meet in this. So
yes.
So shall we...
Yeah, let's
So the year is 1800, and the Emperor of China has ordered his chief astrologer to use all means necessary to put a stop to the opium trade. And you have a British smuggler who's also very racist, named
yes.
named Roderick Upcott, who is in China, visiting a local merchant who had promised to purchase his Upcott supplies of Indian opium and import it. But instead he finds the court astrologer laying in wait for Roderick, having roasted the merchant he was going to meet there alive for his crimes, which was kind of a horrific scene, but also kind of cringeworthy in that celestial toy maker / Talons of Wang Chiang sort of vibe, I feel.
Yeah. Before we kind of go on too much further, I mean, Andrew Cartmel does have form in this kind of thing, because, I mean, okay, he didn't write Battlefield. However, he was a script editor for Battlefield, and Battlefield definitely has a few moments where you just go, really? I forget the name of the supporting character.
Oh, the woman that Ace is hanging out with.
Yes, because like some of Ace's language in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time since I've seen Battlefield, but I just remember, I remember kind of like rewatching it in the mid-90s, just go, whoa, okay. So, I mean, I guess, you know, it's language that people would have used and stuff and everything, but it's just like, oh, yeah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and I feel like the second Doctor hasn't learned that it's okay to punch racists yet, unlike Peter Capaldi.
Yes.
And I feel like if you're going to use, you know, looking at this from a modern lens, you know, granted it was published in 2002, but still, I mean, that's not that long ago.
No.
It's like if you're going to use language like that, you really have to have someone like the Doctor explain why that's no longer appropriate to use. And I feel like it's just kind of on par with Talons of Wang Chiang in terms of, I'd say it's like presentation of Chinese culture. It's almost that bad. But
Yeah.
But with that said...
Yeah. However, let's continue. So, dear listener, you're warned.
So on the wall, as Upcott's discovered that this guy had been killed, he sees a tapestry bearing a dragon identical to Upcott's own tattoo that he got as part of the opium trade. But the image changes color on the tapestry from green to red, which is considered the tattoo's spectral opposite. So the astrologer allows Upcott to escape and said that his punishment will be much longer lasting.
Mm-hmm. So the TARDIS materializes in China in the British Trade Commission, and the Doctor, Jamie and Zoe emerge to find a courtyard filled with smoke, and there's this whiff of incense and gunpowder. And the Doctor encounters Roderick Upcott, who is packing his bags to evacuate, understandably. Jamie and Zoe, meanwhile, start investigating this strange stone structure called a spirit gate. That is a shrine supposedly built to prevent demons from passing through into this world.
And Jamie...
I was just going to say, it's so far so stereotypical, isn't it?
It really is.
It's not subtle.
Yeah. So Jamie and Zoe are investigating this gate, and then Jamie disappears. He vanishes in thin air when he steps through the gate. And then Zoe runs and gets the Doctor, and she says, you know, hey, Doctor, watch this. This is what Jamie did. And then she disappears, too.
No, doesn't he? Does kind of suggest this might not be a terribly good idea, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think. But,
And then, so Roderick Upcott, he's freaked out by this, and he starts using opium, unable to deal with what he's seen. And then the doctor concludes that the spirit gate is, he examines it and finds that it's an alien teleportation unit. And he returns to the TARDIS and analyzes the energy coming from the gate. And he's able to link the TARDIS to it and able to go through the gate, kind of sending him after Jamie and Zoe.
So the TARDIS materializes at the other end of this kind of like time gate type thing. And they're exactly 100 years later, but in England.
In Kent, I think, right?
Yes, it is Kent. It's Kent. In the grounds of the Upcott family estate, a place called Fairdean, which is entirely fictional. And it's near the very same spirit gate, which Roderick had shipped home from China as a souvenir. As you do. Well, certainly as Brits did in those days. So, the British Museum is full of all loads of stuff borrowed from other countries. He's borrowed of air quotes. Or, let's be fair, stolen. Yeah.
American museums aren't much better. We have a similar unfortunate history and tradition.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Many years ago, I went to Salem, and in the Salem Museum, you imagine that there would be a focus on witchcraft and stuff, it being, that Salem. And yes, there is a bit. They also have this Chinese house that had been acquired and sort of rebuilt. And they said that it's the oldest Chinese house in America.
Wow.
Okay. Might it not be better off in China? What is this teaching us? But anyway.
Wow.
So Spirit Gate. So Upcott's great grandson is Surgeon Pemberton Upcott, and he's hosting a party for his close relatives and several other guests on the estate. And amongst the guests are the celebrated medium Celandine Gilbert and her companion Thomas Carnacki, who's a young student of supernatural phenomena. And Thomas Carnacki, as we've kind of already sort of said, he is not an original character. Should we just talk a little bit maybe about who Thomas Carnacki is?
Yeah, so he's a fictional occult detective who was created by English fantasy writer William Hope Hodgson, which is conveniently in the public domain. And Hodgson died in World War I after publishing 6 Carnacki stories, and then 3 more were published posthumously. And all of the stories follow a similar framework where Carnacki sends out invitations to 4 friends, asking them to come to dinner to kind of hear his latest supernatural tale. And then one of those 4 is the narrator of the story, kind of like in a Holmes-Watson way. And then he forbids them to discuss the case over dinner, and then afterwards he tells the tale. And then I think kind of kept people guessing is that they were a mixture of, some of them were supernatural, some of them were more like kind of hard crime sort of tales, and then some didn't really have an explanation, so it kind of left the reader guessing as to which type of story it would be.
Yeah, which is an interesting approach, and it's also an interesting format, because I read one of them, I can't remember the name of it. It was the first one in the Carnacki collection. It was enjoyable. I mean, the whole let's tell a story over dinner was an interesting framing technique. But it's good fun. That said, do I feel a great urge to read the other Carnacki stories? I'm not sure I do.
I agree. The variety is interesting because, so of the 9 stories, 1 has no supernatural component whatsoever, 4 feature authentic paranormal activity, 2 have the appearance of the supernatural as a disguise for humans, people doing things, so kind of like Scooby-Doo style stories. And then 2 are man-made hoaxes in parallel with actual hauntings. So there really is a lot of mixture. But yeah, I didn't feel particularly compelled to go off and read all the stories.
Yeah.
It's interesting though that Telos, they took this character and they spun him off into the Time Hunter novels, along with characters from a Daniel O'Mahony story, The Cabinet of Light, which was another one of the Telos books.
Right.
And then so from 2003 to 2007, there were 11 Time Hunter novels. And then he's also been played by Dan Starkey in Big Finish. He also appears in a Iris Wildtime story in Big Finish from her 3rd season called Iris Rides Out. And his first name is revealed to be Thomas in this story, which is surprising.
Oh, is it not revealed at all in the in the original story? Ah,
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I mean, he does come across as kind of like an Arthur Conan Doyle-esque creation, which I'm sure is entirely on purpose, because like he does have this slight feeling of Sherlock Holmes, but also because like Arthur Conan Doyle, round about that kind of time of like the First World War, the build up to it, particularly after the First World War, after his son had died, he got more and more interested in the occult. So Carnacki does feel like the kind of creation that Conan Doyle could have come up with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although I would venture to say I feel like Doyle's stories are perhaps a little bit better written than the couple of Carnacki stories I read.
Yeah, structure and yeah. I mean, none of them are done as a dinner story.
Yeah.
Released. None that I have. Maybe there's a Professor Challenger thing where it's like, Pastor Volavons, dear, I have an exciting story about some dinosaurs. But anyway, right, we're drifting away from this. So the Doctor passes himself off as a guest at a dinner party, and he finds Zoe, who has been disguising herself as a maidservant. She arrived a few weeks earlier than the Doctor, due to kind of like the time thing. So obviously the TARDIS is working kind of. I mean, at least it was within a year.
I love how Zoe's portrayed in this too, because she's very irritable about having to be a maid, and she's commenting on all the sexism and stuff that she's experiencing, and unwanted attention, which we'll get to.
Yeah,
but
yes,
she's very justified, and I would be kind of upset too.
Yeah, but it was a different side to Zoe than what we've normally seen.
True,
I would argue.
True.
I mean, did it feel wildly out of character? No. But anyway, so Zoe's been unable to find Jamie and is creeped out when the head butler, a guy called Eldermain, which is a great... I mean, the names in this are great, I think. But Eldermain misinterprets the Doctor's interest in Zoe and offers to arrange for them to slip away together for a fee. So, yeah, that does...
Yeah.
It's a bit icky, isn't it?
So after dinner, Carnacki delivers a talk about a previous adventure involving a haunted Cornish spirit lance, and his companion Celadine prepares to channel the spirits for the amusements of the guests. So they're going to organize a seance. And Zoe's skeptical of Carnacki's story, but it soon becomes clear that Celadine she does indeed possess psychic abilities. She enters a trance, and the piano begins to play a tune which hasn't been written yet, which is kind of creepy. And then one of the guests, a Colonel Marlowe, starts heckling the medium, but then falls silent when a heavy cabinet rises up on its own and tilts onto its side without a single crystal falling from its shelves. And the Colonel goes pale and flees, and then moments later, the manor's extensive arboretum, so where Roderick Upcott and his pet monkey are buried, is struck by lightning.
So Celandine falls into a trance, and Carnacki is unable to wake her up. And the Doctor and Zoe go and visit the Arboretum to investigate. And this is where we have had dramatic reading, or one of two dramatic readings.
It is. So this month, our dramatic reading is by friend of the show, Bill Evenson, frequent contributor to Reality Bomb and host of the Frankenstein Minute podcast. So here we go.
Zoe was waiting for the doctor in the arboretum, or rather in the small anteroom that intervened between the house proper and the heated confines of the greenhouse. It was a small chamber with square black and white tiles on the floor-to-ceiling windows on two sides, and a revolving door with gleaming brass fittings, such as you might find in a grand hotel, which led into the arboretum. On either side of the door were tall wooden panels carved with blossoming vines. "Were we really struck by lightning?" said Zoe. "The house was, at any rate. Do you think it was something to do with the medium and all that business, or was it just a coincidence?" "Coincidence? No, I don't believe in coincidence," said the doctor. "Celandine's performance may well have triggered something. Now let's investigate the damage." He moved towards the revolving door. "Why a revolving door?" said Zoe. "I suppose it's cheaper than an airlock," said the doctor, and shoved his way through with Zoe close behind him. The door yielded before them, its glass panels spinning with a whisper on well-oiled runners. As they entered the arboretum, a welcome flow of warm, damp air hit them, lushly scented with the smell of blossoming flowers and green growing things. And something else. "What's that smell?" said Zoe, wrinkling her nose. "Ozone," said the doctor, looking around him. "Result of an electrical discharge." The arboretum was indeed like a miniature Kew Gardens greenhouse. Built in the grand tradition of Victorian engineering, it rose up, tier after tier of glass, in a solid matrix of thin steel girders. Arrayed throughout the structure was every imaginable kind of tropical blossom, creeper, fern, shrub, and orchid. Several full-grown trees bore a lush burden of ripe fruit. Zoe could see the yellow of lemons and the polished green of limes. Just ahead of them, around a curve of the greenhouse, she could see the hanging branches of a tall tree bearing larger, less familiar fruit. "What are those?" "Mangoes," said the doctor. Then he quoted, "Him and his pet chimpanzee, under the spreading mango tree." He hurried ahead and Zoe followed. "Or at least they were," said the doctor. By the roots of the mango tree was what had once been the only unplanted patch of earth in the entire arboretum. Above the square segment was a rectangular headstone of white marble seamed with pink. Angular black lettering set into the marble read, "Roderick Upcott and his beloved pet Sydenham." Below this were 2 sets of dates, in the monkey's case, recording a pathetically brief lifespan. Among the lush plantings of the greenhouse, in the shade of the mango tree, it was an altogether picturesque and peaceful place for a grave. Except there was no grave. Not anymore. Just a raw wound in the loam, like the crater left by a small explosion. The doctor was examining this with fascination. "Incredible," he murmured, lifting one leg to climb into the hole. "Doctor!" Zoe grabbed his jacket and pulled him back. "It's a grave!" "It was," said the doctor, taking out a pair of what looked like spectacles with thick, circular black metal frames. "There's no body in there anymore. See for yourself." Zoe peered into the pit. It did indeed appear to be empty. The doctor had placed the spectacles on his nose and was peering through them as they buzzed and their lenses changed color, cycling from yellow to deep indigo. "What are you doing?" "Checking for the telltale signatures of certain gases. Don't ask what sort." "What sort?" "The kind usually associated with the decay of a human cadaver." "Oh!" Zoe fell silent and watched as the doctor peered around the arboretum with his spectacles buzzing and changing color. "What did they tell you?" "Nothing," said the doctor. He took the spectacles off and returned them to a small sequined case which he stored in a pocket. "That is, they tell me that there is no trace of any such gases." "And what does that mean?" "That Roderick Upcott's body isn't lying around here anywhere." "Ugh, I should hope not. Do you think the lightning bolt destroyed it?" The doctor crouched by the hole again. If so, it must have been very thoroughly vaporized. He touched the sides of the hole where the dirt had a strange sheen. "Is it still warm?" said Zoe. "More than that," said the doctor. "It's smooth. It's been turned to glass. So extraordinary temperatures must have been achieved." "Not surprising if it was on the receiving end of a lightning bolt." "No," agreed the doctor. "So Upcott's body could have been completely vaporized, I suppose, along with that of the faithful Simeon Sydenham." The doctor didn't seem convinced. He glanced around suddenly. "Do you feel that?" "What, that cool breeze?" "Yes, not exactly the sort of thing that's encouraged in a greenhouse. Where is it coming from?" He looked up. Zoe followed his gaze and saw that there was a ragged tear in the fabric of the building high above them. An irregular oval hole had been made on the north side of the tower, framed by a twisted loop of steel and spattered with gleaming nacreous clots of melted glass. "That's where the lightning bolt came in." "Yes, indeed," murmured the doctor. He stood up and looked at the hole in the ceiling and back down at the crater beneath the mango tree. He said, "It's all a bit neat, don't you think?" Just then there was the sound of the revolving door swishing somewhere beyond the immediate curtain of green foliage. The doctor and Zoe both turned around. Someone was coming into the arboretum. A moment later they heard footsteps, and Carnacki appeared, a deep groove of worry dividing his young forehead. "I was told I might find you here." "What's wrong?" said the doctor. "Is it Celandine?" No, she's all right. Or at least her condition remains as it was. Some kind of deep coma or trance. But I'm afraid something else is wrong. He looked at them. I don't quite know how to put this, but there's been a murder.
Thanks, Bill, for reading that.
Thank you, Bill. Right. So we discovered that Roderick's grave has been blasted open by the lightning, and his body has gone, apparently vaporized. And the Colonel has been found dead in the billiard room, a locked room to which he had the only key. So, we've got a locked room mystery, folks.
Didn't you want to read a second Doctor murder mystery? Here we go.
I did. Here we go, yes, yeah. So Pemberton's wife, Millicent, takes charge of the situation, somewhat annoying Pemberton, and asks Karnacki to investigate. And Karnacki's been impressed by the Doctor, and so requests his assistance. And so the Doctor starts questioning Pemberton, and learns that the Colonel had a terrible fear of the supernatural, which had explained his rude behaviour when Celandine was doing the seance. And the Doctor and Karnacki examine the Colonel's body, and they find a red dragon tattoo emblazoned on his forehead. However, it's no ordinary tattoo, as there doesn't appear to be any ink embedded in the skin. And also, presumably, was not there earlier on in proceedings.
Face tattoos, 1900 Kent.
Yes.
Oh. So at this point, all the phone lines in the house go dead. The estate did have like an early kind of phone line, and then a blizzard is moving in. And then as dawn breaks, Pemberton's elderly aunt Arabelle is also found dead. And I kept forgetting that there were like 10 to 15 party guests there too, in addition to all the staff.
Yeah.
The narrative doesn't really focus on them.
No, because there's a lot of people that are background characters who I don't think are even necessarily mentioned until suddenly like, oh, now we talk about this character. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe this could have done with a little bit more depth in some of the earlier scenes, or a bit more character pieces, just so that, you kind of got a bit of a sense of them, so you're not completely surprised when they rock up later on in the narrative. Or maybe they did appear, and I was reading this with half a functioning eye.
So with Aunt Arabelle found dead, Karnacki concludes that the late Roderick had been resurrected and is somehow stalking his descendants. Which Zoe finds difficult to believe. Zoe playing the Scully role here.
Yes, yeah, very much.
And so the Doctor advises her to keep playing the role of the maid in order to learn more, kind of, observing in the background. And she ends up delivering breakfast to Pemberton's younger brother, Thor, who's described as an unrepentant lech who summons her from the billiard room, but insists that she serve him breakfast in his bedroom. Fortunately, the Doctor shows up before things can go too far, but I think we're given the impression, too, that Zoe can kind of take care of herself.
Yes, but she might have to break her cover, though, to kind of, like...
Yeah,
to do
start doing, like, space karate on Thor. Judo throws.
Yes. And also these days, you can't just have like a character just called Thor, because like forever, in my mind, like, it's not Chris Hemsworth. Do not picture Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. So the Doctor shows up and he questions Thor as to how he could get into the locked billiards room, and then Thor admits that he had a copy of the key all along, but that he's not responsible for the Colonel's death. And then Thor also confirms the Doctor's suspicions that the Colonel and Arabelle were relatives by blood and not marriage. So the Doctor advises Thor to be careful because it seems like the killer is targeting the Upcott family line. But his hypothesis is disproven when Millicent Upcott, Pemberton's wife, is soon found dead in her bath.
So as night falls, Pemberton's house guests panic, which I think I would as well if like 3 murders have just happened in a place that I'm staying in. I think my cool would be lost. I think it's fair to say. And they're trying to flee, but then they discover, oh no, the entire estate has been removed from the Earth itself. It's floating on a rock in the depths of space, as you do.
Which I wasn't really buying the explanation for like the mansion being torn out of the ground, but it does make a lovely visual. And I think there's a description of like there's a stream that's flowing near the house that kind of is flowing into space and turning into a cloud of ice particles. So there's some cool imagery there. But isn't Cartmel reusing some of his own ideas here? Because
yes, I can't remember what it is, but he's definitely got. There is something where ghost-like, but also I'm sure there is something where it's been cut away from the rest of Earth.
I think it's in the DWM strip, The Good Soldier, where there's a floating house.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a little bit, I think there was a Jumanji spin-off movie called Zathura that was made in the early 2000s that also had like a house floating through space.
It's great about the river falling away and stuff. Though I do kind of wonder, how does the plumbing work in the house now?
Not to mention the air.
Yes! But anyways, let's not think too much about that. Anyway, because cool visuals. So the guests retreat to the house's great hall in shock, and the doctor and Karnaki examine Millicent's body, but they find there's some discrepancies compared to the earlier killings. Because unlike the earlier victims, her dragon tattoo has been hastily drawn in. And there's this bruise and pinprick on the inside of her elbow, which suggests that maybe somebody kind of like administered something to her, possibly opium, which would explain how come she kind of like fell asleep in the bath and whatnot. So Karnaki and the doctor decide that Pemberton, may well be the killer here. So they lock him up in the wine cellar. Which is also conveniently near the family's fireworks store, because this is the kind of family that has we'll put the fireworks. Well, we have fireworks to store. B, we'll put them by the wine cellar. As like until the police can be summoned. Like, how are the police going to get to a house floating in space?
Yeah.
So Karnaki searches Pemberton's study, finds the weapon that's been used to administer the opium, and so Pemberton confesses to the murder of his wife in exchange for kind of like temporary freedom. And he'd realised that the curse was striking down his blood relatives and couldn't bear the thought of his wife surviving him. Well, isn't he lovely?
To say the apple doesn't fall far from his grandfather.
No.
And then, so later that evening, Thor sends Zoe a 5-pound note and an invitation to join him in his bedroom. She throws both the 5-pound note and his invite in the fire, and then sleeps soundly in the servants' quarters.
Well, as soundly as you would in the circumstances.
Yeah. So then...
I'm not too sure that I would just be able to oh, no, it's fine.
Sleep with one eye open, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. I think chair propped against the door.
Yeah. So then, during the night, Thor is killed like the others, and the doctor studies the scene and determines that the mirror in Thor's bedroom is made of one-way glass. And Elder Main reluctantly admits that Thor sometimes invited him to sit in an alcove behind the mirror to watch as Thor entertained himself with the servants.
And here, we're not talking about playing charades, are we?
No. And so Elder Main was sitting in there the previous night waiting for Zoe to arrive, but instead he saw Thor being killed, and he says that the murderer was the medium Celadine Gilbert, who up until this point had been in like a coma-like state following her seance.
Yes. So Karnaki, it's fair to say, refuses to believe this story, and insists that Elder Main was drunk, lying, or both. And the doctor, though, kind of suggests that Celine might not be responsible for her actions if she was possessed by a supernatural force. I'm not sure how that stands up in a court of law, but I know what he means. But yeah, that Karnaki will hear none of it. With the doctor's help, Karnaki starts building a device to try to locate any nearby sources of spiritual energy. And after some fine-tuning by the doctor, it pinpoints the spirit gate, unsurprisingly, as the source of its disturbances.
Big surprise there.
Yes, whoa! The thing that brought everybody in, yes.
If only we had a convenient cellar full of fireworks.
Yeah. So the Doctor orders Eldermain to fetch these fireworks from the cellar and pile them around the spirit gates, and so it's already proven to be a matter transporter, but perhaps it's some kind of conduit for whatever's causing these weird events that they've been seeing.
Yes. Oh, so then Eldermain, the butler, reports seeing Celandine sleepwalking towards the Arboretum, and then the Dr. Zoe and Carnacki investigate, and they find Jamie lying in a corner of the Arboretum, deep in a drug-induced trance, and surrounded by poppies growing more quickly than is natural. Celandine enters the Arboretum and kisses Jamie on the forehead, but unlike her other kisses, this one brings life and revives Jamie from his trance, which he's been in for several weeks, I guess. And then Celandine has been possessed by the spirit of the poppy, a supernatural force which can be turned to either good or evil, and the chief astrologer's curse is being enacted through the plant with which Roderick Upcott, the grandfather, had caused so much suffering in China. And having allowed the Upcotts to profit from their evil, the curse will now strike and take it all away, increase the suffering for the family. So it's all an ancient Chinese curse.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? But surely, wouldn't it make more sense for the curse to act a bit quicker?
Yeah.
Because the longer the opium trade goes on for, the more misery people are suffering across the world, particularly in China.
Mm-hmm.
So it does seem a bit of a kind of like a long-winded way of doing things. But anyway, logic. So the spirits releases Celandine. It's work done. But Pemberton Upcott arrives, and he's still alive, and holds him at gunpoint. And he confesses that he drugged Jamie when he'd arrived, because he'd guessed that the arrival of a young man from another century meant that the curse Roderick had written about was about to be fulfilled. But he was unsure whether it'd be safer to kill Jamie or let him live. And he forces the others to the edge of the estate. So remember, the estate is still floating in space, intending to make them leap into the void, so none will know of his own crime. However, the final stage of the curse then manifests itself, as Carnacki had assumed from the start. Roderick Upcott's body, along with his pet monkey, had indeed been animated, and it is Roderick who will kill his own descendant, his grandson, Pemberton.
So then, terrified, Pemberton slowly backs away from the approaching Roderick and falls right off the estate into open space. And the dragon tattoo on Roderick's body then comes to life, the dragon swelling to an enormous size and starting to attack the others. So you get the illustration that's in the deluxe version of the book.
Yeah.
And then it seems that the curse, having dealt with the Upcotts, is now going to kill everyone else in the household. But then the doctor sends a signal to Eldermain, who then lights the fireworks and blows up the spirit gate. And then when the gate is destroyed, the dragon sort of crumbles to ash, and then the estate returns back to the normal world, fortunately. Because I think the 10th Doctor could have towed it back, but I don't think the 2nd Doctor could have.
No, he'd have taken it to sort of some random place, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Involving Cybermen, probably.
And then the surviving house guests congratulate Carnacki and Celandine on their success. And with this experience, Carnacki has a new ghost story to tell. And the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe slip back away to the TARDIS and depart.
And there ends Foreign Devil, yeah.
So, what'd you think of it?
Oh, dear. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I did enjoy it when it was becoming kind of like a bit of a rehash of Ghostlight. That was more enjoyable, certainly, than the opening parts. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, it was very hard to kind of like take particularly seriously.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, I don't think you necessarily get a great grasp of the 2nd Doctor in it. You hardly get anything of Jamie because Jamie's barely in it.
Yeah, he's kind of off taking a Nissa nap.
Yes, he is. Yeah, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it was. I do like the Zoe bits. With the part where she's not being assaulted and just being annoyed at, because you do get a bit of an upstairs downstairs feel with some of the house and stuff. And I kind of miss having Jamie from the dynamic. I would think that having the Doctor and Zoe would be fun, but it it isn't enough, and Karnaki's kind of a poor substitute for another companion.
Yeah. I think Karnaki's only in this because Andrew Cartmel, I think, had enjoyed Karnaki's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And also maybe because they had the idea of doing some more stuff with it, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I think you could tell the story without him.
Yeah, and I guess for me the story felt, I guess at the end of the day, it just felt inconsequential. Like it not a whole lot happened. And in parts of it, like the parts that felt like Ghostlight, they felt good, but it also kind of felt, because you had the Edwardian dinner party, you had the manservants and the piano playing by the fire, and all of that felt very familiar. Also, as well, the events would probably have happened in roughly the same way they did, even without the TARDIS crew. True, yeah. That's a good point. They might not have had the idea to blow up the Spirit Gate, but they did identify it, or Karnaki identified it independently as the source of the problems without even knowing like the whole situation. But yeah, and the ending does feel a bit rushed too, and with Jamie hardly in it, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it could have worked as a novel more than a novella, but then again, if it was a novel, then we might have had more slightly dated stuff going on in China. Yeah. So, yeah, I think if it was a novel, I don't think it would be regarded as one of the classics of whatever range it had appeared in. Yeah. So I think I'm going to give Foreign Devils a 5 out of 10. It just, it was kind of meh, I guess. Yeah. It is missing, some pointed comment. Like, if you're going to go there with the portrayal of race at the time, you do have to have some kind of commentary on it, I think, too. Yeah. Yeah, you need to make it very clear that it's not the narrative's point of view. Yeah, yeah. I think for me, I think I might give it a 6, just because. I think it's well written. Mm-hmm. Andrew Cartmel is an accomplished writer, but it was just, I'm not quite sure what it's telling me, apart from opium is bad, and Britain got up to some horrible things in other parts of the world, which is something that the British public do need reminding of from time to time. So, particularly in these times, but yeah, yeah, it's not great. Well, shall we turn our attention to brighter pastures? Yes! The Summer of Love in 1967. Oh, I just got the pun. Summer and the Summer of Love, yes. Oh, yeah. I just got it after you did. Yeah, so dear listener, this next book revolves around a character called Summer. And we're talking about Wonderland by Mark Chadbourne, which was the 7th of 15 Telus novellas and published in April of 2003. For some reason, when I was collecting the Telus novellas at the time, I was just getting the regular ones. But this and I think one other, I accidentally got shipped the deluxe ones. Ooh. So I have number 577 out of 800 of the novellas. So I get to see the beautiful illustration that they included. So Mark Chadbourne, he was a journalist in his early part of his career, but he's sort of since had 6 novels shortlisted for the British Fantasy Society's Award for Best Novel. Yeah, so he's been described as a contemporary bard. And also he writes historical novels under pseudonym, and he was also a scriptwriter for the BBC drama Doctors, which is a bit of a surprising career twist. But yeah, Doctors is a daytime soap. It's kind of like one of the very few, if not the only, daytime soap currently airing in the UK. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an episode of it. But yeah, so I think this is only Doctor Who work, isn't it? Yeah, that I'm aware of. I don't think he's done anything for Big Finish or anything. This book is told from the first-person perspective of Summer, so it's kind of her diary entries, and it's not really broken up into chapters or anything like that. It does have a foreword by Graham Joyce, which started out good, kind of talking about cathode ray tubes and catching the first transmission of the Daleks. But then it got a little awkward when it started describing and reviewing the story we're about to read. So if that's the case, then why not make it an afterword? We don't need convincing to read the story. We already have the book.
Yes, and also it's not like it's an 18th century classic where we're kind of like, oh, we assume that everybody knows, who Mrs. Havisham is. I was like, no, don't share any twists.
Shall we start?
Let's crack on. So it's January of 1967, and we meet young Jessica Willoughby, otherwise known as Summer, and she's searching Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco for her missing boyfriend Denny when she meets the doctor in the park. There's a boy who seems to be kind of like tripping out, of which there's a lot of. And so he walks up to the doctor and shows him the cloth-faced head of a robot that the doctor and his friends Ben and Polly recognise as a Mondasian Cyberman. The robot head vanishes into thin air, and the panic-stricken boy flees, claiming to have seen the devil. And Summer decides, what should I do? Yeah, I'll follow the doctor. It's like, yeah, I think I at this stage might be. I mean, okay, sure, she's looking for a boyfriend, but anyway, so I might have gone the other direction. But hey ho. So Summer follows the doctor back to a police box deep in the park, and perhaps maybe just to be rid of her whilst he's investigating his own stuff. He asks Ben and Polly to help her look for Denny. And at the coffee shop, Ben and Polly start, telling Summer about their stories, and Summer explains that she and Denny met when he saved her from a group of rednecks outside a bar in Amarillo, and she's convinced that he would never abandon her without a word, unless something terrible has happened.
So, as Summer's talking to Ben and Polly, another customer begins to scream, claiming that she saw a man melt away into thin air. Someone else mentions blue moonbeams, which is a kind of drug or a type of acid, I guess, which is said to have been causing people to vanish. And then Summer, Ben, and Polly decide to investigate. And they stop in at the San Francisco Oracle, where a reporter admits that kids have been recently starting to vanish, but there's any number of different explanations. I think at this point, hippie culture is well underway in San Francisco, and you have kind of that counterculture movement happening.
Yeah.
So outside, Summer meets up with the doctor again, but he's kind of off on his own train of thought, convinced that the head of the Cyberman he saw was a deliberate message to him. Summer's upset by his kind of lack of concern for, trying to locate Denny, but they're interrupted when another hippie kind of steps out from the fog of San Francisco, accompanied by this giant butterfly creature, which the doctor recognizes as a Menoptera from the web planet. And then this Menoptera gestures at the doctor and then vanishes, fades away into dust. And then Summer returns to the commune, kind of a flat that she's living in with a bunch of other people, unsure whether to trust the doctor and kind of thinking through these experiences that she saw.
So the next morning, the reporter from the Oracle that we were speaking to earlier tells Summer that someone matching Denny's description had been seen speaking to this guy called the Goblin, who's one of the most dangerous people in the Haight. And Summer decides to investigate, but her friends are too frightened of the Goblin to accompany her, and the doctor is apparently too busy to help. So, upset by all this, Summer heads off to the Goblin's house on her own, and inside she finds a woman who's claiming that there are colour beasts everywhere. And as Summer watches, something invisible drags the woman out of her chair and across the room. And terrified, Summer flees upstairs, where she meets the Goblin, who's a vicious drug dealer preying on the people of Haight-Ashbury. And he claims that these blue moonbeams are nothing to do with him, and seems angry that someone who refers to as the Witch Matilda is trying to put him out of business. And Summer demands to know what's happened to Denny, but the gloating Goblin says that Denny is dead, and it shows her Denny's shirt, which is splattered with blood. The Goblin then tries to assault Summer, and at the last moment Ben and Polly show up, having followed her from the park, and help her to escape the house. And furious, the Goblin vows revenge on them all.
So,
yeah,
2 Second Doctor novellas, two sexual assault scenes.
Yeah, lovely.
It's
good job that we weren't trying to do a third novella, because I suspect we get a hat trick at this, right?
Yeah. Oh, well. So Summer is convinced that Denny was murdered because he had learned something about the blue moonbeams. The doctor agrees to accompany her to a party that Matilda is holding to investigate further, but then Summer realizes that the doctor is going not to support her, but for his own reasons. And this is where our second dramatic reading for the month comes in, as the doctor tries to make his way into Matilda's party. And it's courtesy of friend of the show, Felicity Cousinets, who is host of the Flopcast podcast and is a occasional contributor to Reality Bomb. So here we go. Let's have a listen.
The partygoers had been arriving for the past hour. I'd already seen Janis Joplin and a few members of the Grateful Dead's entourage, and the night was still young. The Oracle had said Ginsberg, Gary Snyder, and Kesey were going to be there as well. At other times, as a poet, I'd have been wowed to meet any of them. "We'll never get in," I said. The doctor flexed his fingers. "Let's see, shall we?" He scampered across the street and up to the front door, the rest of us hurrying to keep up. The entrance was guarded by an unnaturally tall, muscular man dressed in long black robes. He had a shaven head and he was wearing sunglasses despite the hour. His swarthy skin emphasized the numerous gold bangles and necklaces that hung off him. He was curious about the doctor, who did a little jig before bouncing up the steps. "What a fine evening this is," the doctor said with a theatrical sweep of his arm. "And how wonderful it is to be here." I could see the doorkeeper was intrigued by the doctor's accent. "Hey, do you know the Beatles?" he asked. "Ah, the Fab Four. Why, yes I do," the doctor replied. "In fact, it was I who suggested George visit the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi for his spiritual guidance." The doorkeeper looked perplexed. "Oh, of course, that hasn't happened yet. But it will happen, mark my words." He pulled a recorder out from inside his jacket and proceeded to play Love Me Do jauntily while performing a crazy dance. By this time, a small crowd had gathered. They laughed and clapped at his antics as he played up to them. The doorkeeper wouldn't be able to turn him away without getting some annoyed comments. But the doctor sealed his entrance by finishing his tune with a flourish of his hands that made the recorder disappear. It was a simple bit of stage magic, but in the hate we were easily entertained. Everyone cheered and the doorkeeper stood to one side to let us in. I was a little stunned myself. I hadn't seen that side of the doctor before. It was almost like he was two people. More, in fact. Inside the house, it was like we'd stepped into another dimension, like one of those crazy places Ditko drew in the Doctor Strange comics everyone loved. It was designed to stimulate every sense, a heightened atmosphere that had my head spinning the moment we'd walked through the door. Incense and joss sticks mingled with the aroma of grass. In rooms where the music wasn't playing, wind chimes and bells jangled, accompanied by the insane rhythms of bongo players. Drapes hung everywhere, velvet, silk, gauze, drifting in a faint breeze through the open windows. Psychedelic lights splayed swirling colors across the walls and ceilings. Bubbles floated here and there, and everywhere people were dressed in the most amazing clothes and makeup. Many of the partygoers wore ornate masks, though some of them were grotesque and left me feeling faintly uneasy. "Shall we mingle?" the doctor said with a clap of his hands. But as he turned away, I caught a brief glimpse of his face darkening, and I realized what he was doing. I caught his arm. "You're not here for me at all, are you? This has something to do with your own thing." He looked at me with those intense eyes for a long moment, then smiled. "I'm here for all of us, Summer. Trust me." I watched his back as it vanished into the crowd.
Thanks, Felicity, for reading that excerpt.
Thank you very much for doing that.
In addition to the Flopcast, you can also hear Felicity back on episode 50 of the original Book Club podcast, reviewing the Seventh Doctor novel Just War by Lance Parkin.
Yes.
All right. So now that the Doctor's in the party, at the party, a man bursts out from a private room in the back of the house, his skin melting away into colored lights to reveal muscle and bone underneath. There are masked figures throughout this party, and they grab the Doctor and Ben and Polly and Summer, and they take them into this back room and force them to take blue moonbeam pills, and then lock them up with other party victims. Summer's able to spit her pill out, having concealed it against her cheek, and the Doctor had palmed his, and they're able to induce vomiting in both Ben and Polly, but the others in the room are being affected by the drug already, and as the four of them flee, the remaining partygoers start vanishing into thin air, and Summer hears the sound of terrible fighting and violence coming from the room.
So the goblin is still hunting Summer and her friends, and there are plans for a music festival called the Human Being, which will kickstart the Summer of Love. This was a real thing, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, and also the Oracle, the newspaper, was a real thing as well. And so, so the Human Being, which I'm glad it was a real thing, because otherwise I'll say it's a terrible name, because it is a terrible name.
It's a bad pun.
It's awful, isn't it? But it's so 60s. The Human Being is a perfect opportunity for Mathilda to distribute the blue moonbeams to the entire population of Haight-Ashbury. And the Goblin and his gang track down Summer, Ben and Polly. But before he can kill them, something invisible rips into him and his gang, tearing them all apart. So our heroes barely escape their lives, and Summer hears that Mathilda has summoned a demon to destroy the goblin before he could go after her.
And then the doctors worked out that something is trying to communicate with him using symbols from his own memories. So he had the image of the Cybermen, humans who turn themselves into machines. There was another scene where he's presented with components from Wotan, which was from the War Machines, and then the Manatra, an example of a species which metamorphosizes. The doctor's suddenly seeming much more supportive of Summer and her plight, and they go to stake out the festival. But then another younger person, a hippie, approaches the doctor, and colors start pouring out of his body, and the earth begins to shake beneath their feet.
So Summer sees Mathilda and her followers passing through the crowd, starting to distribute the drug. And Summer manages to grab the bag of blue moonbeams and flees, losing herself in the crowd. And she and her friends then set off in search of the Colour Beast, accompanied by the reporter from the Oracle. And they followed a hippie that they saw bleeding colour at the festival. And he directs them to a nearby hidden doorway that leads to the ruins beneath the city. And we then learned that modern San Francisco was built on top of the ruins of the older buildings that were buried in the 1906 earthquake. Is that right?
I think so.
Because I tried Googling this and I wasn't...
I've seen something similar in Seattle, where there's an underground city or underground level of the city that there was a big fire and the city decided to build on top of itself, and you can go down there and take tours of it.
The ruins, yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because as you're walking on the sidewalks, in downtown, all of a sudden you'll see slabs of pavement that have purple flecks in them, purple bits of glass.
Right. And
you realize that they're translucent to allow light in to the undercity below, which is their original purpose. So
right.
I think San Francisco had something similar.
Gosh, okay. Because in Edinburgh, the old town a lot of it is built on top of even older buildings. And that kind of strategy makes sense in an area that's not prone to earthquakes.
Yeah. Not so much if you're in a fault line.
Yeah, I've never been to San Francisco, but it doesn't make me kind of think, oh yeah, I must go. Just because I'm like, no, this sounds even more precarious than I was thinking.
And we're talking historical districts and buildings here. All the modern ones, are built to withstand different quakes. But yeah, there is that danger.
Yeah, and presumably the things that have been built for the modern stuff has been not built on ruins,
right?
But has been built on solid ground.
Right. If you're ever in Seattle, I recommend the underground walking tour. It's quite interesting.
Okay, yeah, and similarly in Edinburgh, you can go around the underneath bit of the old town. It is super creepy because that was walled up, I think, due to the plague. So yeah.
So then Summer agrees to take a new drug, which the doctor has developed, which alters her perceptions without exposing her to the side effects of being on acid. So the others kind of reluctantly wait outside while the doctor and Summer pass through this doorway, where they find an entrance to a secret laboratory complex, which is occupied by the guys who were wearing crew cuts and they looked like they kind of had dead eyes, who were hiding beneath masks at Matilda's party. So Summer follows her heightened sentences to a room where a huge alien has been chained to the floor. Kind of looks like a beast, and it's horned and it has wings. And its skin color changes so rapidly that the human optic nerve overloads and fails to register it, rendering the alien invisible. But if she takes the drug, she's able to see it. The color beast communicates telepathically with Summer, revealing that it had been trapped by corrupt figures in power who are using an extract from its blood to create human-alien hybrids. And then the stress of the change turns these invisible hybrids into killing machines until they kind of burn out from the stress. So the invisible attacks that we saw earlier were from some of these invisible hybrids.
So the Doctor and Summer are captured by the crew cut guys who've already disposed of Matilda as a loose end. And just as they're about to do the same to the Doctor and Summer, Ben and Polly appear and rescue them. And so like, the four of them, Doctor, Ben and Polly, they free the Colour Beast. And Summer returns to the music festival to prevent those who've been taking the blue moonbeams from killing the innocent.
I don't know how she was going to do that, by the way. She's like, I'll go to this festival to stop them. And it's like, how are you going to stop these invisible monsters that are just like shredding people? Maybe because she can see them and like point people away from them. I don't know.
Through pluckiness, maybe. I don't know. I mean, she's quite forthright, isn't she, Summer?
And very, very earnest. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. At the festival grounds, though, Summer again sees, because there's this thing that she's kind of glimpsed of, and she'd refused to believe it earlier, and we hadn't been told what it was, but she now realizes that one of the masked figures is Denny. So the bloke that she's been looking for all this time. And he's been helping to distribute the blue moonbeams and was nearly killed by the Goblin when the Goblin was when they were trying to get rid of like competition and stuff. So here's a twist.
That did surprise me to the point where I had like an audible gasp when I was reading it. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, because like I just assumed when we saw Denny's shirt earlier, I was like, I took that at face value.
Yeah, same. So kind of shaken by this betrayal of Denny, Summer can do nothing as the victims of the blue moonbeams begin to transform into these killers. But at the last possible moment before everything breaks loose, the freed Color Beast arrives and lingers just long enough to reverse the process before departing from the Earth, kind of flying up into the sky. The crew cut guys are forced to retreat, having failed to destroy the Summer of Love, which they regarded as a threat. But before going, Denny warns Summer that she knows too much now, and he advises her to get out of town before the Grey Men decide to clear her up as one of those loose ends.
So Summer leaves San Francisco without looking back, and she's now on the run, like for decades. And as she grows older and more cynical, she comes to believe that her kind, the hippies, etc., never stood a chance against like the establishment. And every so often, she catches a glimpse of Denny on the news, usually in the background whilst horrible things are happening, and realizes there's no trace left of the man that she loved. Finally, nearly 40 years later, she's living in an isolated house in New England, and she starts to hear clicks on her phone line and finds her mail is being opened and realizes that the organization is coming to deal with her at last.
And so she's sitting there, and a mysterious car turns into her driveway, and she sits on a bed with a gun waiting in her hand, and she's contemplating, like, do I commit suicide? Do I fire at the person coming for me? What do I do here? And then she hears the Doctor's police box starting to materialize behind her, and she turns and she looks, and she sees a man with a floppy hat and a long scarf stepping out. She doesn't recognize him, and he claims to be the Doctor she once knew, and that he tried to find her after the festival, but it's taken him this long to track her down. So it's the fourth Doctor showing up to spirit Summer away. And as the assassin breaks into the house, the Doctor shows Summer a book that's due to be published next year, which is an expose from the reporter from the Oracle exposing this entire conspiracy. And she realizes that there is hope after all. So she puts the gun aside and she departs with the Doctor, leaving the assassin far behind. So it ends with the Fourth Doctor rescuing her.
Yeah. And potentially getting a new companion.
Oh. Well, so that's this novella.
Yes. So what do you make of that?
It was definitely different from the other one we read. I feel like I maybe enjoyed it slightly more than Foreign Devils. I thought it probably would have worked slightly better with maybe the Third Doctor and Joe. I think there's at least one novel I read where I think Joe's undercover in a hippie commune and kind of fits in. And I thought the scenes with like the Cyberman head and the Menoptera were kind of freaky, and I was, I guess, emotionally invested in the first person narration. Did its job, and I was kind of more invested in this story, I felt, than the previous one. And although there were some flashbacks to the Kennedy assassination, so
yes, which was a bit surprising.
Which we didn't really mention in the summary, but
No.
So now at the Kennedy assassination, you have Summer there, you have Christopher Eccleston there, and then you have the Master and the journalist James Stevens there too.
Yes.
Getting a bit crowded, but
it is a bit crowded. But I mean, Summer is she's there like on a family gathering because like they've just gone down to Dallas, and it has a traumatic effect on her, and as you would expect. Whilst I must say I did do a kind of like a little bit of an eye roll of there's yet another Doctor Who connection to the Kennedy assassination, but for me it just, her character really does come across very strongly in the narration, and she does feel like, you know, her own person, and also it was very interesting to see her views of the Doctor. This is not someone who's just easily won over by the Doctor, and it's always interesting, I find, to see the Doctor as others would see him. I must say, I enjoyed this a lot more than I enjoyed Foreign Devils. Though I did kind of feel, I mean, there are quite a few real-life people that rock it. Timothy Leary appears in this at one point, doesn't he?
Yeah, and Janis Joplin, and
yeah.
It's like everyone's hanging out at Matilda's house.
But it doesn't feel ridiculous, though, to me. I mean, I don't really know that much about the Summer of Love specifically in like San Francisco. Yeah, so I can't speak to the historical accuracy of it. But it has a truthiness, to use a Daily Show expression, about it, which also helps sell some of the more horrific stuff and everything. Though, like the Goblin, I kept on picturing him as William Dafoe, who is the Green Goblin, who also gets somewhat sort of like sexual assaulty in the first Spider-Man movie. So, which would have come out roughly about the same kind of time.
It would have, yeah. So, how would you score this one?
How would I score this one? I think I'm going to give this one an 8. I really did enjoy it. I mean, it's not essential, but it just felt different. It also felt like the right length. This could not have been expanded to a book. I don't think this could have been done in any other way. Obviously, you wouldn't have had all of the depth to, you know, Summer's character and backdrops and So, and also I like the fact that we have this hope at the end, and you know, and who knows, maybe Summer is still rocking around. Maybe Summer, you know how Tom Baker always used to say that there was like that maybe there was a shepherdess in the TARDIS looking after a flock of sheep. Maybe that's Summer.
Maybe.
Maybe she's still there.
Maybe she's still there. Wow. Don't jettison that room then. Accidentally.
Yes. And somehow survived Frontios. Along with Chameleon. But yeah, how would you reckon?
So I think I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
I enjoyed it a bit more than Foreign Devils, and I really liked the first person narration, and I thought the author did a really good job of capturing the sights and sounds and impressions of what I'd imagine, 1960s San Francisco to be like. And as I read this book, and it may have been the first person perspective that helped, but it felt more like I had time traveled, when reading this, as opposed to, say, the 1800 or 1900 dynamic in Foreign Devils. So from that sense, it helped.
Also, there's a freshness to it, because this is not an era that we spent much... Or, ironically, this is not an era we spent much time with in Doctor Who, particularly not in America. But like even in the Inferno Club, and that's pretty much it, from the show in the 60s of showing 60s life.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a real... as you say, it does capture a sense of the time and the place, and because it's one that's not been done to death in Doctor Who. apart from the Kennedy assassination.
Yeah.
It's intriguing.
The one part I didn't care for too much, I think, apart from the stuff with the goblin, was although he did lead into like a real menace and like kind of credible threat to the rest, this undercurrent. But I didn't care for the twist with Denny, although it did surprise me and, I gasped and stuff. But I just felt it was extra cruel to Summer on top of everything else she had to go through in the book. It was just like that one extra thing. It's like she's already going through the ringer, it felt like. And
yeah.
But, fortunately, she got a bit of a happy ending with the Fourth Doctor rescuing her. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, there we have it. Kind of strange that we ended up with a pretty much Jamie-free Second Doctor experience, but there you go.
Yes. Oh, well.
How did you find reading 2 shorter titles instead of the one longer one?
I think I might have. I read Wonderland first. I think if I'd read Foreign Devils first, I think I would have been very glad to know I've got something else to get on with. Not that I disliked Foreign Devils in particular, but I was just like, right, okay, at least this isn't all of my Doctor Who for this month that we're reading for the show. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. How did you find it as a different?
I thought it was fine. I asked because we're going to be doing it again in February, so just a preview there.
Okay. Right. Okay, fair enough.
So, shall we go on to listener feedback?
Yes, let's.
Okay, so we received some feedback on both our tribute to the Terrence Dicks episode, as well as some feedback on Grave Matter. Keith says the Uncle Terrence podcast was a lovely idea, and he thanked us for it.
Mm-hmm. We also heard from Mike Todd on Facebook as well, just saying the same thing, which is lovely.
Thanks. Looking in the mailbag, we do have an email this month.
Cool.
It is from listener Mike from Launchpad Comics. And he says, hi, just finished listening to the latest episode. He didn't own Grave Matter and used our review as an impetus to order it and get it read before the episode came out. So he was reading along with us. And he said he really appreciates both of our perspectives on these reviews and loves hearing some of the real-life context for the story. He also agrees with both of us. He loved this book, but also found some of the proceedings a bit perfunctory, especially towards the end. He liked the turn with Sir Edward and Dave Madsen. He was telling himself that he bet that Dave would end up being a bad guy and Sir Edward would be good, which turned out to be the case, only to have things flip around again as the story progressed. And he almost shouted wheelchair out loud when Madge mentioned it. He said Perry's flight from Sheldon's Folly was spectacular. And then he says, I'm surprised you didn't mention her near miss with the shark. And then he wrote a follow-up email to say, you did mention the shark at the end. That's what I get for listening on the go. He says, I played Dungeons and Dragons, and that whole sequence made me think of a sadistic dungeon master putting a poor player through the ringer, just one thing after the other. He says he only has one of the Telos novellas, but he may try and track the other 2 down for October. They are pretty rare to come by.
Yeah. Though, as I've said before, though, you can find some Telos novellas in UK public libraries. So if you are in the UK and if you have access to libraries, then have a look. You might be in luck, particularly in the bigger cities.
And he says, if you're open to suggestions, he'd love to hear our take on the Virgin New Adventure Conundrum. It's one of his favorite Doctor Who novels. He says the previous iteration of the podcast reviewed it, but he'd like to hear what we have to say about it. He says it's a story that could only exist as a book, and it's probably the most meta of the Doctor Who books. I have read that one. That's the one with, there's like
it's the Land of Fiction.
Yep, and there's a superhero.
Yes, a superhero, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's good. Certainly, I've not reread it, but I do remember greatly enjoying it.
Yeah, same. And that's a Steve Lyons one, right?
It is, yes.
So Mike, again, he's writing to us from the Launchpad, his comic store in Lodi, California. So thanks, Mike, for the kind words and the email. It's nice to get one of those.
Yes, yeah, it is. I guess the UK public library system will probably be outside of his reach. But there might be some Telos novellas in California. I don't know.
And if you want to send us an email, you can do so at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Do we have any other things on Facebook or iTunes reviews?
We do. No iTunes reviews in the UK. As I say, I only seem to be able to see ones in the UK due to the magical way that iTunes works. But so on Facebook, so we've had some thoughts about Grave Matter. Jay Barry said that it's a solid but not groundbreaking read, but the horror genre developments are done well. And Jeff Waddle has said that he'd read it but couldn't remember it, which says it all in his words. Vaguely something about stuck on an island with no communication methods. So I was like, no, that's you're not far wrong. And we also heard from Mike. I wonder whether this is the same Mike, actually, who says that he just finished reading it the night that our episode dropped and said perfect timing. So it might be the same one.
We also got some feedback on Twitter about Grave Matter. Ivana Richards says that Grave Matter is one of the best, if not the best, Sixth Doctor novel, and has the Sixth Doctor and Perry down perfectly. David Evans Powell says he loves Grave Matter and it's a great one. Jordan Shorten says they really like this book, one of the best Sixth Doctor novels they've read, and have enjoyed it so much that they've read it a few times, or quite a few times. Richard Booth says it's a good one now that autumn is drawing in. The Fiction Paradox podcast said that Grave Matter was creepy and fun. Fiction Paradox, by the way, is going through and doing all of the Eighth Doctor novels in order and podcasting about that.
Yes, they are, yes.
And then Keith Say writes that he loved the Grave Matter podcast and remembers reading the book on holiday in a remote village and becoming quite creeped out. And Shaney says it's Doctor Who meets Resident Evil and was a fun read. So I think Twitter comes down more on your take on how much they enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
So I think we're now at the point, Chris, where you let us know what we're going to be reading next month.
Yeah. So I think given everything that's been happening in sort of like Doctor Who news in the last sort of month or so, I think even if it wasn't time to do a Ninth Doctor, I think we would have done a Ninth Doctor now, because like Chris Eccleston seems to be embracing fandom, as I said at the top of the show. So we're doing a Ninth Doctor book. We are going to be doing a Steve Lyons book.
Ooh.
We're doing the Stealers of Dreams.
Awesome.
Yes. Which that I believe will be available on Kindle, and also it might even be available on kind of like audiobook format.
It is, yeah. I knew you'd only had like 4 or 5 options to pick from, so I did a little bit of pre-research, and I'm glad you went with this one for a couple of reasons. I read the first 3 books when they came out, so this is one that I haven't read yet.
Yes,
because it's part of that second wave of 3 with Captain Jack, which I think adds kind of a cool dynamic.
Yeah, I didn't want to do another Justin Richards in such quick succession. But also, interestingly, this one was published after Only Human, and the next book that was published after this was The Stone Rose. So we'll have done all 3.
Yeah, so this will be this was the last Ninth Doctor book published to date. Yeah. Unless you count I think there was a Titan Comics miniseries somewhat recently, but yeah.
Yeah, that did briefly cross my mind, but I kind of thought that, that something.
Yeah, we haven't done a Steve Lyons yet.
No, we haven't. So, I think it's about time. So, I've not read this one, so I don't know whether it's any good.
He has a good track record.
He does. I mean, I think Eric on the original show has said that. So I think Steve Lyons was possibly his favourite of the authors.
Oh, and you mentioned Eric Stadnick. He recently put out a 2-minute Time Lord episode talking about Terrance Dicks as well. So listeners can hear his thoughts about him on there.
Yeah. And also as well, his show The Real McCoy, I think, is worth a listen, which is he and a co-host whose name escapes me, forgive me for that, are doing the Seventh Doctor starting from the TV era, but they'll be also dipping into the Seventh Doctor in other formats, including in some of the books.
I'm guessing that's not Warren Fry that's doing that.
It is not. It is not Warren Fry. No, it's an English chap whose name escapes me. But yeah.
Cool.
Looking
forward to it.
Yeah, so it should hopefully be fun.
And this one was finally turned into an audio 7 years after it was originally published. Camille Kaduri came in and it reads the unabridged audio, so that'll be an option too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's definitely available on Audible. So, yeah.
It's nice to have like a far future Ninth Doctor story though too, because so much of it has been current or past, so that'll be a kind of a nice change too.
Yeah, no, it'll be good.
To have a future set story.
It's set in a dystopian future, from what I understand, as with a corrupt government. So it's kind of like, then we may accidentally discover some modern parallels.
Well, until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading!
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song, Doctor Who Theme, Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. You can support the show by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
He moved towards the revolving door. Thin steel girders. Roderick Upcott and his beloved pet Sydenham. Sydenham? It was an altogether Pisker. Spectacles with thick circular blah. Zoe followed his gaze and saw that there was a ragged tear framed by a twisted loop of steel and spattered with gleaming nacreous clots of melted glass. Oh my goodness, this is a good one. An irregular. Then he quoted, "Him and his pet champ, him and his pit." "Mangoes," said the doctor. Then he quoted, "Him and his pet chimpanzee under the spreading mango tree." "Mangoes," said the doctor.